Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today we're going to visit this topic of the Division 2, if it's a game that you should play in 2021. There's so many questions that I've seen based on, this, I would say this topic or whatever it is, that I want to try my best to go ahead and just shed a little bit of light on some of them. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer every question that you have, but that's what I think the comment section will serve. So first of all, the Division 2 is a looter shooter, RPG in nature, third person. And one of the really cool things about the game is this is the second iteration, and the game has received one major DLC. Right now, because of development lag, the game is in kind of a seasonal mode where the developers are basically, reigniting season events or whatever it is you want to call it for players to engage in, while we're going to be getting content down the road later this year. So this is not necessarily the end of life of the game, if you want to actually say that. I think when you're going to say the end of life of the game, you're probably going to be looking at the content that's coming down later down the road. So if you were to purchase the Division right now, what value would you get for your money? So first things first is the value that you're going to be getting is you're going to get a base game that has about a 30 to 35 hour campaign if you're able to play it very fast. If not, you're probably going to spend longer. And the campaign takes you from level 1 through level 30. From level 30, you're able to scale through the world tier system. There are 5 world tier categories where you actually do specific missions that eventually unlock the next tier, which also provide a little bit more variation in missions, but you're going to be dealing specifically with one of the major factions in the game. They're actually one of the end game factions called the Black Tusk. Nonetheless, while you're progressing, you're going to get to know the other factions. You're going to get to learn systems within the game, and all of these will serve to kind of get you up to speed to pretty much what results to the end game in the Division 2. Now, the end game in the Division 2 is highly, in a place where PvE is the biggest emphasis of the game. In terms of PvP, if you're looking for a PvP emphasis for Tom Clancy's The Division 2, I don't think you're going to be able to find something that, is enjoyable. Now, I might be wrong because some people do find the PvP enjoyable. So this may be something that actually does appeal to you when it comes down to what your end game preference might be. Now, this is just level 30 and wall tier 1 through 5. There is another progression as well that is actually behind a DLC package, basically a major expansion that was dropped in the Division 2 in March of 2020. This is the Warlords of New York expansion. This expansion has another progression that moves you from level 30 all the way through level 40, and then you also get an extra progression which is called your shade level, which is a watch that you get that actually boosts every single major stat that you have on your agent. So basically, not only is it a level increase, it's also a power increase, and the gear that you're going to be farming all the way through level 40 will also be increasing in power as well. For those of you who are, well versed with RPG looter shooters, you kind of know exactly how this stuff works. If you're new to the game exactly, and you're fresh, just consider you want the higher stats gear, and the numbers and the way the HUD is designed is going to clue you in. If you look at the menu here, you're going to see these items have level 40, and they also have different power stats that tell you what percentage of the different stats are available on your gear. And so this is basically the way that you look at it. These stats do affect the way your combat goes, and so you can leverage them and build using different combinations of the different gear sets in order to make your agent powerful. So when you kind of look at how much gameplay you have, what the value proposition is, you're probably looking at somewhere around the 200 to 300 hour mark if you really run the game in a community setting. And when I say in a community setting, there are different ways to run the Division. You can run the game solo for the most part. I think you can run about 90% of the game, if not more, solo by yourself. You just have to learn the systems, and you have to really, really have a lot of skill and patience, and you can basically play the game all by yourself. Or you can run with groups of people. You can join a clan or join a community, and this is definitely going to speed up kind of that progression in the sense that one really cool thing about this game is agents and players are able to share gear items when two people are in the same session and they get, one person gets an item, that item can be shared with other agents within the team. So your progression may be hindered by not getting some really cool gear, but then when you're running with other people and they get some cool gear that you haven't maybe received, they're able to share that gear with you, and this can, in a sense, boost your progression. So not only is it just an XP boost, you also can see a power boost if you're playing in a community setting. Another really cool thing is there's a matchmaking system that actually does work to actually facilitate that as well in the game, so that if you have any mission that you want to play, all you have to do is basically queue up, in that mission, and you're going to have people who also want to play that mission queue up with you as well. And then you guys are all going to jump in, and eventually, those people are going to be in the mission and you guys can all play together in a networking environment. So this is something that's really solid and has been at the core of the Division game since the very first iteration. So when you think about it, even if you may feel overwhelmed, there's some sort of a casual nature to the game that does get you started. I mean, really, you will eventually kind of pick up the systems. Overwhelmed is I would say is a very rare situation if you're a seasoned gamer for the Division. Unlike, say, Destiny, when many of us, or I'll speak for myself, when I tried to go play Destiny, I was just overwhelmed because there were just so many elements that I just necessarily could not comprehend all in all. But at the end of the day, all that you need to basically just figure out is, what do I have to do? What missions do I have to do? And you have a very interesting and interactive map that does allow for you to be able to leverage and, navigate all through the world and enjoy pretty much what the game has to offer. Again, if you're maybe trying to return to the game, there are a few things that I believe that will probably serve you in this light, but it also depends on when you left the game too. So if you're maybe trying to return after maybe I'll say 4 months, you probably know a lot of what I'm going to be talking about, but I'm going to drop them here anyways. So one of the very first things that you're going to notice if you're coming back is there's a quality of life improvement when it comes to the acquisition of gear, items, and even exotics. So when the Division kind of dropped, all of the exotics were kind of weird to attain. Some exotics, you had to do specific missions and specific tasks to get them. Some of them, some of the exotics, they were locked behind. I would say they had a higher drop chance behind specific bosses, and were even locked behind those bosses. An example will be Jefferson Trade Center, where there's a boss at the end called Coyote. Her job would be that she would drop you usually some of the outcast exotics. One of the outcast exotics is the Merciless exotic rifle. But now you can get this exotic rifle anywhere in the map. It's no longer a matter of you just basically having to farm that mission over and over again. You can use the targeted loot system and pretty much, put yourself in a position where you can farm areas or missions that are dropping an item that is within the, range of items that you want. You can also use the Summit. The Summit is a mode that was added just a while back, not even too long. And this mode actually does allow for you to customize your preferred loot drops. I mean, it's so cool that you're able to pretty much pick out what gear items or, brand set items or weapon types you want to drop for you as rewards when you're playing through it. So this is a very cool way to accelerate that progression, like I said. Now, yes, it will feel like, you're in some kind of a crucible just grinding away and just trying to get the items that you want. But like I said, again, if you use the community side where you play with other people, it will really speed up your progression. And that's one really interesting thing about this. So that quality of life improvement has really, really changed the game for a lot of people. Another thing too is, the way the seasons were, there is a seasonal model that came after the Warlords of New York DLC. So once we finished it, we started going into the seasons. Now, the seasons basically span from season 1 through season 4, but the developers, because they're lagging in their development time, chose to go back and rerun all of the seasons. So this allows for people to be able to leverage these seasons and also be able to, get the rewards that are actually associated with these seasons just for getting XP. And some of the rewards are actually pretty cool. So when you get to end game, at level 40, you start getting these season rewards. And some of the rewards people actually do want. Like here on level 30 of the season, there's a Dark Winter. The Dark Winter there's a named weapon skin called for the Dark Winter or whatever it is, and you also get the Dark Winter submachine gun. This submachine gun is actually a very good submachine gun. It's a named item, and people have been looking towards getting this, but it's very challenging to get. So it's one of those weapons that a lot of people are happy to play the seasons over again for. The only downside is some people have said that, naming the season 5 is not necessarily transparent enough, but I think that's more of a nomenclature thing for me. But I can see where, somebody will think that's a problem. I mean, we all know it's a season rerun. It's not like it's some kind of a brand new season. We were told it was a season rerun. So when you think about it, you're able to kind of garner all of these items. They're specific. And you're going to get them as rewards. And you're also going to get this, same phenomenon happen again 3 more times after this particular season is over. So that's also another interesting quality of life aspect that you can expect to gain when you actually, jump back into the game. Because, like I said, progression is a very interesting thing in the Division. Progression is not necessarily only XP. It's also by your player power and also by how strong your gear is. So there are also some really cool things that, you can also deal with when it comes to progression that I would leave for you to basically jump into the game in order for you to leverage. Now, again, depending also when you left the game, I don't know how long ago many people left, you can basically leverage the control points now to be able to get so much more. If you guys remember, this is a very, very old thing that used to be in the Division. The control point system used to be based on you doing side missions to be able to get the control points to be at the control point threat level 4. So let me explain this for you if you've never played the Division game. Each control points are these areas that are marked in green flags. When they're green, it means that they've been captured by me, the agent. When they are red, it means that they're actually still under hostile control. Now, you're also going to see some that have a yellow inscription. These are seasonal control points that are mandatory to play to actually continue, the season manhunt, where you're hunting a specific boss character. So that's why you see it as yellow. Now, back then, you would have to pretty much play some of the missions that were connected to the control point or missions that surrounded the control point to be able to get that control point to increase its threat level so that you can actually defeat that control point at the hardest difficulty to gain more rewards. Now, there's an open world difficulty setting that allows for you to be able to do that. Now, I know this is an old, thing, and many players may wonder why I'm sharing it. Well, for those of you who are new players, when you're coming into the game and you want to use the open world difficulty setting, I would say you might want to, start out from just playing normal and hard. Now, yes, the gear items that you're probably going to get may not have the best of stats, but it will at least help you understand and learn how to synergize your gear before you start going into harder difficulties. You can play any difficulty in this game, even using purple gear or trash gear. You just have to really know how to play very well in the open world. And so when you change the open world settings, everything in the game is going to be at the minimum default level, that difficulty. So the open world, the bad guys, the missions, they're all going to assume that difficulty that you've actually changed it to. So you want to make sure that you're testing and seeing that your gear can actually, take on the bad guys at the level that you set it on. If one level is too hard for you, feel free to change the level. You know how gamers can be. We'll say, oh, you're playing on this difficulty. Don't listen to anybody. Play the way that suits you. That's the best way for you to be able to enjoy the game. We've seen, in the past, we used to see a lot of complaints of people say, well, heroic is just too hard. They need to tune the enemies down. But the developers basically just didn't barge on that position. And eventually, many people who weren't able to, play on the heroic level eventually started trying their hands on challenging. And then now most people in the game are playing on the heroic level. Not everyone, but that's also something to consider. So like I said, there's so much that I can share when it comes to quality of life improvements, when it comes to progression, that when you kind of wrap all of this up and you think about the value proposition, I think The Division is a worthwhile game to spend some time on in 2021. Plus, there's also the promise of some new content coming down the road. And so that's something that we're looking forward to. But a lot of the veteran gamers are probably going to be taking a break here in the next few weeks or months playing Outriders. But still, though, some other veterans have also mentioned mentioned aloud, and I've been reading comments and just, looking around to see how the community feels, they're still going to be here. So if you're going to need any help, there'll be people here to matchmake and play missions with you. For the longest time, people used to say the Division is going to get killed by the next game that basically someone's carrying a gun, but we found out and seen that the Division basically is walking its own path, and other games are also walking their own path. So it would depend on the players. It would depend on the quality of the game, for an agent or for a player to be able to pick that game up. Nonetheless, I can tell you for certain that there are a lot of Division agents that are going to continue to play the Division, whether or not they're playing other games at that moment. But that's pretty much it for me. This video is really extended past the time I would like for it to. So I would say any other questions you have, leave in the comment section. And if they're much more specific, I'll try my best to answer. Even those of you who are veterans here, who are audience members, you see a question, please feel free to answer. Thank you so much for all of your support. I think we're like 33,000 subs now. I really do appreciate you guys a lot. It's a long journey so far, but to me, the subs are basically kind of a family type deal. I listen to your feedback. We have discussions. And so that interaction really makes it much more than just, in quote, subs, but much more of a dedicated, audience base that is here to pretty much stick through thick and thin of the whole YouTube wave or whatever it is. Talk to you all in another video. Peace out.